We're in San Antonio with Bob Ellis, and we want to find out a little bit more about the church here and about you. So obviously you are Bob Ellis, but tell us about the rest of your family. Tell us about your wife and kids.
You can say that now.
Get us up to date.
My wife is Arlene Ellis, and she's from Venezuela. I have one son, Kevin, who's 6, and we're expecting another son in December 20th.
How long have you been in San Antonio, and what brought you here?
Okay, we came in June of 2001, and we launched the church in around 2001 September, right after the September 11th attacks. It's a great tourist city, military city. It's very diverse ethnically, which is something we were looking for when we planted. My wife and I are a mixed couple, Hispanic and Anglo. So we were looking for something that kind of fit who we are demographically. And San Antonio is around 52% Hispanic and around 39% Anglo. So it's a majority Hispanic, and so with that being a minority in the United States, but a majority in the city, was kind of interesting and unique. So it was a little bit of the best of both worlds. It was like Latin America, which is something I wanted, and it was a little bit of Americana too. So it was a little bit of everything.
You get called into not only ministry, but this desire to be part of missions. I think that would be interesting for people, because you do have that mixed calling, I guess.
Yeah.
This fulfills for you.
Yeah, this would be a mission church. I mean, I think it'll go down as just a regular church plan in our district, but it's definitely missional in the sense that we're targeting a third generation, sometimes fourth, fifth generation Hispanic American population. But kind of the genesis of my calling started growing up in Virginia, and my summers out in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, I was working in a furniture factory, and that was the start of Hispanic migrants coming into our town. And it was just the very beginnings of that, and I would hang out with them on breaks. And I'd be the only white guy sitting with these guys eating their jalapenos and trying to learn a word here or there. And it was the start of, I think, God putting a heart for these people in my mind, and in that calling, which I understood later when I was in college. College missions.
Very cool.
We originally started as El Centro Cristiano.
Okay.
And then the longer we kind of went down that road with a Spanish-speaking name, and all of our people spoke English, we realized the name didn't fit the people. And so last year in August, we changed to Crossroads Church. And so with the population in this neighborhood, 72% Hispanic, and the majority of the Anglos would probably be more retirees. But we're getting more and more mixed. It is San Antonio, so you'll have a Hispanic and an Anglo, but for the most part, it's a Hispanic neighborhood, and there's just not a lot of strong churches within 410. So our desire at the beginning was just we wanted to see a strong, the neighborhoods have been abandoned. The church really needs to be in the community.
And just so they know, this church used to be a Wesleyan church, and it used to be, for the most part, an Anglo Wesleyan church for, do you even know how many years? I don't know how long it was here.
I found some plans that showed this building was built in 67, 68, 69, somewhere around in there. So I'm assuming that other building was, I don't know. I don't know if they built it or bought it. I don't know. So I don't know how old. You'll have to talk to your father-in-law.
I don't know. But then it was closed and was used by another denomination for a while, and we rented it out until we had the opportunity to bring you in here and revive it as a Wesleyan church. What would your hopes, dreams, or goals, what would the future look like for Crossroads? What do you hope? What do you dream? What's God put on your heart?
Well, the short-term goals we have for this year, we'd like to just see a substantial increase in attendance. We'd like to kind of break the 100 barrier. We're kind of floating at 92 for the year last year, and then we're right at 100 this year, or at least in the last 4 or 5 weeks. But to just break through and have some momentum where it doesn't feel like a small church forever. I'm afraid, the longer we go, statistics say the longer you stay at a certain point, it could end up staying there forever. And I think with the name change, we've kind of extended the window of opportunity statistically for breaking that barrier. Now, so I think short term would be to see some increases this year. We'd like to see it up to 112 this coming year. I mean, that's from 92 to 112 is only 20 people. And I'd like to see 10 salvations. I mean, these are just kind of maybe random numbers, but just some kind of benchmarks for me as a pastor. So I think short term, and then I think kind of a wild idea. We did, when we started the church, we started it bilingually. We had a Spanish service at 9 and English service at 11. And the Spanish service kind of tanked because people who are speaking Spanish are really relational. They're first generation Hispanics from other countries, are very relational oriented. And so we would have a service and I would run right out and go to a next service, and it just never grew. And they never really had their pastor. He was always getting ready for the next service. And so I'd like to see a better effort put towards the Spanish service. Now, if that means bringing in somebody. I mean, I think ideally they're going to need somebody who'll invest in them. So maybe bring a staffer on, part-time, bivocational. I mean, I think that's a kind of a short-term goal. I'd like to see that happen within the next year. Realistically, I'm not sure it can happen, but it would have to be a lot of things would have to fall in line for that to take place. We had just started a year-long contract with an apartment complex, which is catty corner on the same avenue with our church. So the gas station's there, and right next to it's West Avenue Apartments. And we started a year-long relationship, a contract with them where we will be meeting in their relatively new community center. And so we will go back there and offer Saturday morning Bible studies. We're calling it backyard Bible studies. And so we're going to do that once a month as an outreach. The thing that we got, or the thing that I was challenged with, and I've been challenged in the church with, was that statement, and I know a lot of pastors are using it. If they heard the same thing I heard, was, if your church closed, what would the community most miss about you? And I think we were here, but I don't know that the community would feel anything other than they would hope our parking lot would stay here so they could park for PTAs. And we got to be more than that. And so that's been the challenge, that's been the focus. And so we're really trying to ratchet up our outreach. And we'd like to get into some ideas of, kindness, acts of kindness, where you go throughout the neighborhood, whether it's the fire department or whoever, and just do some things like that, kind of randomly, but then the outreach will be definitely focused. And then in the fall, we're going to launch a Financial Peace University, I think. There's been some question with the economics of it. It's a pretty expensive program, but there are people hurting financially.
I'd like to hear any prayer requests you have. Before I do that, is there any other items you would just say is important to know about the church or about you all, or anything that you would cap off this interview with before we catch your prayer request for the church?
I would just say one of the positive things we have going, just a lot of momentum, is in our youth group. We have fantastic youth pastor and his wife, Brian and Erica Funk. They're like gangbusters, really. The kids are coming around and they're mentoring them. And what's really exciting is that they'll spend time with the kids here, and they'll do their lessons, they'll have their youth group, and then they invite them over back to their house. So it's very incarnational. I think, how can you handle all that time with them? And yet their energy is refreshing. It's challenging and convicting all at the same time, because they're giving and giving and giving, and they're seeing the fruit of that.
And they work, for the most part, full-time jobs. Both of them outside the church. So
She just got a job yesterday as a teacher. So they both will be teaching at Christian schools. And the reason they want to do teaching is so they can have their summers to invest in the youth. It's just a cool. Their idea is they're going to work full-time, and unfortunately we can't bring him on right now full-time. He's just part-time with us, so he's supplementing that with a full-time job, I guess. But he's supplementing his full-time calling with a secular job,
right.
But it's at a Christian school. I'm sorry, and so that it's just unique that they would be willing to take jobs that they could gear around the youth. I think it's inspirational.
Cool. And you've spoken of them very highly here, so they're good to have on the team.
Yeah, and that's the thing about when you first start a church and then you start getting a team around you, you start seeing more potential because you're not doing it alone.
Yeah.
So we're seeing that.
Good.
My wife and I are very excited with that.
Any prayer requests, either personally, you and your family, or for the church that others can be praying for you all about?
Well, we just got a child coming in December, so that's going to be a new kind of a relearning process. I have a 6-year-old, now we're going to go back to diapers, so that'll be gearing up for all that.
Staying up part of the night, it's going to be great.
Hopefully we'll have a sleeper this time. So, I think just for her health and the health of the baby, that would be my personal concern.